like to welcome you to the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for the Sequoia Community College District. Today is Monday, January 12th. And just want to welcome everyone here. Hope you guys had a nice break, quality time with your family. And thank you for everything you've done to help us get to today and prepare for our students. So first I'd like to mention that there are no closed session reportable action items. And then if you can please stand and help me join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Calvin, will you do us a honor?
Sure. Please join me in saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 5, public comment. Per Board Policy 2350, any person may address the board at this time either on an agenda item or other matters of interest to the public that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. A maximum of 5 minutes is allowed for each speaker, a maximum time of 15 minutes per item unless otherwise extended by the board. At this time, I'd like to invite anyone who would like to make public comment concerning items on the agenda. I'd like to invite anyone who would like to make public comments concerning items not on the agenda. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 6, board and executive staff reports, starting with our student trustee.
On January 12th and 13th, all 3 COS campuses will be hosting Donuts and Directions in order to welcome students on campus and help them find their classrooms during the first couple of days of school. On January 26th, COS Tulare will be hosting the COS Farm Bureau Career Night for Youth Leaders of the Tulare County Farm Bureau. On January 27th through the 29th, COS will host Welcome Week, where students can enjoy free conchas and hot chocolate while meeting the COS Tutorial Center staff, free flu shots from the health center, and build their vision boards for 2026. And on January 8th, Student Senate and the leadership class gathered for a full day of planning where we reviewed our Student Senate core values. As College of the Sequoia Student Senate committed to the ethical leadership, we will pursue the following. We will create a positive and involved community by serving others. We will act in a respectful way towards others. We will pursue smart outcomes. And additionally, we broke into event teams of 2 to 3 to plan each of the major events planned for the semester, such as Club Rush, Giant Hearts Day, Midterm De-Stress. Our first major event will be Club Rush on January 8th through the 29th on the Visalia Quad. And that's it. Thank you.
Questions for our student trustee?
Yeah. How was your first day of school?
First day of school was really good. Thank you for asking. I only had 1 class, so it was really short, yeah.
She was passing out donuts.
That's only one more than I had.
Very good. Moving on to board member reports. Trustee Sherman.
Report.
Trustee Nunes.
Convocation last Friday. It was great as usual. Obviously enjoyed the outside speaker. The statistics having to do with the various generations I thought was pretty amazing. Also had the opportunity to attend doubleheader basketball for the men and women last Wednesday, I believe. Both teams were successful. Both teams are doing well, although not as formidable as last year. It's hard to beat 30-1, but I think they're going to represent COS in the Valley Conference very well again.
Very good. Trustee Lane.
Like my 2 colleagues, attended the convocation. Stellar as always. Echo the comments with regard to the guest speaker. Troubling for sure. It's almost I don't know. She could have probably subtitled it something like the demise of Western culture in your hand or something. I mean, just the impact of cell phones and the data backing up all of the sort of wrong ways on the charts in terms of academic performance and social anxiety and all those kinds of things. Just kind of really troubling. It was interesting, Dolly and I were chatting afterwards, and he was sharing that some of the other countries in the world are actually banning, cell phones, I suppose at either an academic setting or, at a certain age level or whatever. I mean, certainly puts a thought in your mind as to whether or not that might not be appropriate for us as well, as a society, not necessarily COS. Anyway,
Oh, thank you.
great job, Barry.
But yes, I also attended convocation, and it was very interesting. I really enjoyed all of the data, especially her focus on just mental health and how important that is, and how it affects academics. It affects kids. Well, in every aspect of their life. But I really enjoyed seeing that in an academic setting. And I also did bring it to my kids about the phone. They didn't like it, but hey, I had data to back it up.
I'll get you a copy of the PowerPoint. You can show it to them.
But yeah, I would also like to, let me see, would also like to, let's see, hand out a couple of memorandums. Let me see. Mr. Board Chair, I'd like to hand these out that way for each board member. Let's see. And I'll read them. Let's see if everybody has one. There's a couple. Is that enough for everybody?
Only got one page, so.
Are there two different ones or just one?
No, there's two memorandums.
Oh.
Yeah. The first one is 2 pages, and then the second one is 1 page. Did everybody get one?
We're missing it down here at this end.
Here's the page.
If I give you. Oh, okay, there. Okay, so, Mr. Board President and Superintendent, so, again, Happy New Year. So, given the lack of finality with the process of, trustees to submit agenda items for the board consideration, I would like to request your assistance in placing the following items for board discussion and possible action for the February 9th board agenda. The requested agenda item, if considered and approved by the board for agendizing on the February agenda, would direct the superintendent to prepare a staff report and an agenda item at a future board meeting, which would provide the board with updated research and information. Again, it's just updated research and information on options, costs, sources of revenue, barriers, and opportunities for COS to consider offering healthcare coverage to part-time faculty. The staff report should include the types of state grants and revenues available that could help offset any costs, including access to funds available through SB 154 and AB 190, and how the California Part-Time Faculty Community College Health Insurance Program could assist with this opportunity. The updated fact-based information provided by staff will give the board an excellent opportunity for a robust, informative, and productive discussion on whether COS should offer this important health coverage to our part-time faculty. Given the national changes and ongoing uncertainties surrounding health insurance that many Americans, including our part-time faculty, are facing, this is an appropriate and timely discussion. Healthcare remains a critical safety net for our community, and it is worth our time to revisit whether offering this benefit is feasible. I am proud to be a member of this U.S. family, which consistently promotes values such as inclusion, social responsibility, and well-being of our entire community, including our staff. By considering and approving this agenda item for future discussion, we reaffirm our commitment to aligning our practices with those core principles. The language highlighted below is what was recommended in the staff report in the April 2025 board meeting, which to my understanding has yet to be completed. I'm still not fully clear on as to how I, as a trustee, can propose agenda items. This describes the closest things we have discussed to a process. Quote, board members may submit a written request by using the board member request form and submitting it to the board president and superintendent for inclusion of an item on a board of trustees agenda. At the meeting where the request is heard, discussion shall be limited to whether the item should be added to an agenda, not the merit of the item. In order to be included on the next available board agenda, request must be received by the board president and superintendent for a board member no later than 13 business days prior to the board meeting, unquote. And then the second memo is to request the agenda to agendize an item if considered and approved by the board for agendizing on the February agenda. Would proclaim the months of February as African American History Month, March as Women's History Month, and October as LGBTQ History Month. By proclaiming these months as requested, we will have the opportunity, like other public agencies across the county, state, and nation, to recognize and highlight the amazing contributions these communities make to our college and its students. The superintendent can recommend to the board the best ways to accomplish the stated goal. So yeah, there you go.
Thank you for your report. No further report from myself. Moving on to foundation report, Mr. Foster. No report, okay. Next, accreditation report, Dr. Calvin.
Well, you heard me on Friday. I'm still a couple weeks short of being able to give us what we anticipate being a full, clean bill of health for the next 8 years. But we did get a wonderful, wonderful exit report from our accrediting team, and spoke extremely highly of our processes. So I will not be surprised if we do get a full 8-year renewal, as well as a combination in the area of participatory governance and integrated planning. The commissioners meet in late January, and they normally get, once their approvals take place, we normally get a letter back in early February. And so hopefully by the second week in February, I'm sharing out what I anticipate being very, very good news.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for Dr. Calvin on accreditation? Moving on to Superintendent President's report, Dr. Calvin.
Okay, so this being the first day of the spring semester, I thought I'd give an enrollment update. Recall that we pushed forward probably 800 or 900 FTES from the summer. We had a big fall enrollment, 5,400 FTES. Our biggest ever, if I'm not mistaken. And then this spring enrollment is tracking right along with spring of 25, which was our largest ever. We're on track to go maybe 11.2, 11.3 in terms of FTES. And currently we're funded for just below 11. But as I'll get to in a moment, the governor has proposed 1% growth for the current year, which is unusual for in next year's budget proposal to kind of go backwards and say 1%. But with that, we may be right in the ballpark to get funded in the low 11,000s, which would be amazing for us. So thanks to everyone that makes our enrollment go, and it does take a huge, huge team from the people that are on high school campuses on the weekly to counselors and financial aid specialists and program specialists up and down the Sequoia halls, to obviously the faculty that are preparing their classes. But our enrollment, unlike a lot of community colleges in the state, our enrollment is just fabulous. So let's keep that trend going. Several of you mentioned convocation. I thought it was wonderful. Dr. Twangy was just as good or better Friday than she was at the Work Investment Board annual meeting that when we first met her. Very, very interesting. But at the same time we were doing that, the governor was unveiling his proposal. There are some discrepancies, so who knows what's going to happen between now and May revise. The LAO, the Legislative Analyst Office, had kind of pinpointed the budget deficit at like $20 billion. He's got it more at $2 billion. So it'll probably land somewhere in the middle, and I'm not sure how that's going to change the budget forecast. But as of last week, he was proposing a 2.41% COLA, which for all of our groups would be 3.41% with that 1% kicker that we've thrown in there the last several years. The big thing is he proposed extending that COLA to our categoricals. So if you're running a categorical program, you know that over the last several years, the COLA hasn't been extended to those, but obviously they're still our employees, so we still pass that along. So it ends up being kind of a budget gap for us. But this year, most of those categoricals are included in this COLA proposal. I mentioned a moment ago, 1.5% growth. That's 1% in the current year, and then another 0.5% next year, which would be, I mean, it doesn't amount to a lot in the grander scheme of things, but at least we're going in the right direction, because that's the only time our base moves. We're not like K-12s that get paid for every single student that comes in their doors, regardless of what you started with. If there's a hurricane in Houston and 1,000 extra students end up in Visalia Unified the next week, they get paid for all of them. We don't. We're limited by historical numbers, and it only goes up in a year where the governor provides growth and you actually capture that. So the 1%'s on paper, and we don't get paid for it until we actually go 1% over our funding gap, and that becomes our new base. So that would be really good news. And here's my final thing. The big surprise was, we've got this Hanford Science Building that we've been planning for, but told we're going to have to wait until the next statewide facilities bond passed, and that could be another 5 years. Frankly, we waited about that long for the one in 2024. Well, in this budget proposal, there are still some funds left in Prop 2, the statewide facilities bond from 2024, and there's enough for 10 projects, and we're on that list with the Hanford Science Building. It'd be incredible. I mean, it'd just be incredible. That's a $67 million project. We've got to come up, the only bad news here, folks, is we've got to come up with 25% of it. So we'd have to come up with about 16 million, but we've got until the fall of 2029, so almost 4 years to check under the couch cushions and come up with $16 million. So we'll be working on that just in case this comes to fruition. And again, we'll know May revise, June negotiations. You guys kind of know the schedule, but hopefully this all comes to fruition, because it's a pretty good deal for the community colleges. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
questions for Dr. Calvin?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Moving on to reports, Academic Senate President's report update, Dr. Arsola. Did not see him. Costa President's report, Ms. Redden. CSEA President's report, Ms. Kane.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Brief short report this month. I just wanted to give some recognition. I know most of you were at convocation. If you had the time to join us in Morrow afterwards, you saw the 9 tables of amazing spread of just about everything you could possibly want to enjoy. I love giving a shout out to our food services staff, the student services workers, and the managers in food services that were starting that process at 2 a.m. To make sure that that food was ready in time. So just wanted to make sure if you see any of those people, tell them thank you because they're awesome and that food was delicious. Yes.
I did. I talked to Zach that day, and I told him, and I took pictures of every table to show it to my wife, because there's no way that she could have believed what was there.
We're very special in that way. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
We gotta bus in people to eat it all, though, because that was the only disappointing part. They were a little disappointed. I know that Rosa and Vanessa were like, we need more people to eat this food.
It's the first time that they haven't been completely cleaned out
Yeah.
at the end, so we'll
It
take
was
that.
incredible, and it gets better every single time. You wonder, I keep thinking it's not sustainable, and they keep kind of one-upping themselves,
They're magicians over there.
but it was incredible.
Thank you. Next up, COSAFA President's report, Ms. Alberti. No. And there are no items for informational, so moving on to consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. An item may be removed from the consent calendar at the request of any member of the Board of Trustees or any member in the audience and considered a separate agenda item. The items are minutes of the previous meeting, personnel report, payment of bills, 2025-2026 working budget approval, out-of-country travel request.
I would like to pull number 4 from the consent calendar, 25-26 working budget approval, please.
Okay. Any other items? Then I'll entertain a motion for items 1, 2, 3, and 5 of the consent calendar.
I would move for approval of items 1, 2, 3, and 5.
Second.
Motion by trustee Nunez, seconded by trustee Sherman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving, item 4, working budget approval. Trustee Diaz.
So looking at the working budget approval, we'll be looking at line item listed for the last page. The C/F CASAFA office hours. I had a few questions regarding the line item. If I read it correctly, is there a deficit in the budget item for office hours for the
No.
period covered in the staff report?
No, there's not. So if you look at the very top line, final adopted surplus, so the adopted budget that we took to the board in September showed a 1.9 million. And then as we close out the fiscal year, anything you see a CF means carry forward. So those funds are carried forward from the previous fiscal year into this budget year. So that's why you see the negative amount, because that's the negative amount that's taken off that surplus there. So you see, for example, we showed 1.9, then all the CF is carry forwards or any other miscellaneous changes. Bottom line, it went from 1.9 to 1.4, and then every other month you'll see we do the same thing, either plus or minus. That's all that is.
We don't want those groups to lose
No,
those
nobody loses the money,
budgets.
so we carry it forward into the next fiscal year so they don't lose the money.
So the total amount allocated for this line item for the fiscal year is what, 125,000, I believe?
I'm not sure, did you say just a yes?
Okay.
So on top of that, 125 plus whatever's carried forward is on that fund.
So in past years that this has been provided, has the funding been adequate, or does it need to be adjusted by the board throughout the year?
So that's a negotiable item? It's something that we negotiate at the table.
Oh, okay.
And then at my, there have been numerous occasions, I won't say numerous, it's happened where it's gone over, like fall will use up more than half of what we negotiated for, and then once we go to provide spring, we'll have more requests than what we can afford, and the group, in this case CASAFA, would say, you know, we're $5,200 short from honoring all of the requests for the spring. Can the district pony up that much? And it's me and then Dr. Wilcoxon's office that would approve something like that, and that has happened.
I think in my 6 years tenure, it maybe happened twice. And we all work together to make sure we get those funds there.
And do we have about an idea about how many students benefit from the opportunity to visit with their instructors, professors?
It's really variable in terms of the outcome. On the sheet that they submit for the timesheet, basically the office hour timesheet, it gives the instructor the days that they met and then the number of students that actually attended the office hour. And it does vary quite a bit. I mean, more frequently than not, there's students there. But we haven't historically done, I made an effort to actually track exactly how many students and what out, but, you know, the hours. But again, coming into this role, that's just kind of what I've noticed, at least as of this was the first cycle for me in terms of this role, and noticing in the fall, those timesheets rolled in at the end of fall semester. But as a dean monitoring that, I can only speak to the divisions I oversaw, they were fairly well utilized, but I suppose that can vary.
We don't capture it and put it into one big report. It's primarily, we require that number primarily for the deans to be monitoring, just so when the process starts again, they've got an idea about, you know, does this subject, does this time that the class is offered, has it historically drawn a large number of students, just to give the deans a little data to go on when they're approving these office hours requests, because otherwise it gets pretty subjective anyway, and we try to approve most office hours, because I think in general office hours are great for students, even if they don't always use them like they should. We've learned students don't always do optional, but we do the best we can to make it easy for them.
That's all, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions, discussion on item 4? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the working budget approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2025-2026 working budget approval.
I have a motion. Motion by trustee Diaz, seconded by trustee Lane. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, number 10, action items. The 2024-2025 audit report. Ms. Parkmore.
Happy New Year. So I think everybody has the audit report, and this is Mr. Councilman Ken Nunez's favorite subject. Very favorite.
Used to
on
be.
him.
It's kind of losing.
So education code, as you are aware, requires us to go through the audit, annual audit, to measure our performance, how well we have done financially and followed all the compliances, so forth. And as you can see, as you have picked at it, we met everything, and we received the unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion you can get, again. And some may have noticed the date is, audit was actually issued on the 2060 year instead of 12/31, like deadline that you're used to, because there was a delay in federal compliance supplement. That's and Chancellor's office actually issued the extension until like mid-February. So despite that, we were able to wrap it up sooner than that deadline. And I wanna, before we turn this over to Mr. John Dominguez with our external auditing department, I wanna thank you, my staff, and the managers. This audit is, I was telling my staff, it's like a fussy crying baby. It takes all of us to raise this baby, and we raised that baby really well. Thank you, and here you go, John, your turn.
Thank you. I've just got a brief PowerPoint to share a little overview, and I wouldn't have disagreed if we sounded like the crying baby. We ask for a lot throughout the year. This is a really comprehensive audit that goes through a lot, not only in fiscal, we're working with facilities, IT, A&R, all these other departments had really tremendous support. Everyone was very transparent. We had full access to everything we needed. And we'll just walk through a brief overview and some really good results on the audit. We can get a little excited talking audit, so if I'm moving quick, feel free to stop me, but I'll also open up for questions at the end. The first I wanted to bring up, in our district audit report, we are rendering 4 auditors' reports within that document. So we have our independent auditors report, our report over controls and compliance, and then our 2 separate federal and state audits, all which had very positive results in all of those. And then on the Measure J and Measure C Proposition 39 bond audit, we're also rendering our financial and our performance audit opinions there of the bonds. And in that district financial audit, we rendered an unmodified opinion. And so that essentially means that the data management gave to us, that they provided to the Chancellor's office in the 311 annual report, we felt was accurate, it was complete, and it appropriately and accurately reflected the financial position of the district. So that's a good opinion. That's the best opinion at our disposal. And we also had that same unmodified opinion for the performance or for the bond financial audit as well. In that opinion, we do state that management is responsible for the financials. They should get credit for the accuracy and the completeness of that document. And so we do indicate and draw your attention to that. As we walk through some other components of the audit, the MD&A, excellent source of information with a lot of narrative and comparisons from the prior year. And then in those basic financial statements, we've got, the primary government, as well as those fiduciary funds and the fiduciary net position. And then the discretely component unit as well. The College of Sequoia's Foundation was also included as a component unit in the district audit. And then finally, the other remaining financial sources of information, leading us to our summary of auditors' results, where, again, we did not identify instances of non-compliance, including significant deficiencies nor material weaknesses, and did not identify instances of non-compliance. This is becoming more and more rare. I think there was a definite uptick in findings throughout the state this year. So something that, we continue to look at, but had really good results here for the district in this audit. And then just briefly going through some key highlights, we did see total net position. And again, this includes all sources of long-term assets and liabilities. So capital assets, the pensions, the OPEB, all of that resulted in net position increase of approximately 9.7 million. And some of the big factors that drove that, again, on this full accrual basis, was obviously the issuance of the Measure C bonds. Capital assets did increase with that continued investment in facilities and equipment. We did see a slight increase in the compensated absences due to a new GASB standard. GASB 101 required additional analysis and increased liability for those compensated absences. And then the net pension liability, we had some good news. There was a slight decrease there. And then the OPEB asset, a slight increase. So that was good news there. And then just wanted to point out GASB 101. This was a new required standard from the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. Management did an excellent job of implementing this, but it did increase the compensated absences liability by that amount. And then finally, on our bond audit, Prop 39 financial and performance, not a whole lot of expenditures left for this current year in Measure J, but we did test those as well as Measure C. We tested a total of 86% of the expenditures for the current period, and in our conclusion felt that they were allowable, proper, and in full compliance with Proposition 39 bond and the measures that the voters approved for the district. So those were kind of the overviews at a high level I wanted to cover. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the results or any of our procedures related to these audits for the June 30th, 2025 fiscal year.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Mr. Dominguez?
I have a few questions. But first, I would like to acknowledge our superintendent and staff for the work that you guys have done in establishing such a healthy reserve. I mean, it's unheard of. We are very lucky to have to be standing where we are financially. So thank you so much for that. I did have a question regarding the district, and I'm going off of the financial highlights on the book.
Okay.
On page 5. Question regarding the district ending the year with an unrestricted general fund balance of 31.31 million. I see that the state chancellor's office recommend that we have reserve levels of 2 months of average expenses of general fund expenditures to be set aside for economic uncertainties. So what does the district exceeding this requirement for the current year mean? If that makes sense.
I think I understand. If we were only doing 2 months in reserve, it would be roughly 16 or 17 million or something like that, but we exceeded by about double that, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so we're double, like, kind of the minimum of what the chancellor's office would recommend. And I don't think any of us want to be in a position where we've got 2 months of reserve before we start burning the furniture for heat, you know? So I think we operate as efficiently as we can. We take care of employees first, I think is demonstrated by our wages. We've talked about that, wages being as high or higher than counterparts in some really expensive places to live. You know, when our salaries exceed those in San Diego or San Francisco or Los Angeles, you know, people are being taken care of. And obviously we renovate and we do our deferred maintenance, and we've invested in our physical plant, new programs, people. We do all those things, and yet at the end of doing all those things, we also take heed to be good stewards and reserve as much. So, you know, the fact that we're at 27% reserve, certainly not close to being the highest in the system, but a very, very healthy reserve. And if you want to put it in these terms, yes, we probably have 4 months worth of our operating expenses, which I still don't think is, I mean, if, you know, for all intents and purposes, 4 months is not a lot to keep in reserve. We've had some very, very difficult times. A lot of people that weren't here, whatever, 15 years ago don't remember it, but we've had some very, very difficult times. And the state's had difficult times where they cut us by 10%, and they took another 25% of our budget and deferred it for 12 months. Some crazy things like that give all of us a little PTSD. So as far as I'm concerned, after we take care of our people and our physical plant and our programs, the more the better in reserve, because those days come in a hurry. Yes.
I remember a few years back when we had to shut summer school down, had to lay off some of our youngest and brightest teachers because we didn't have these kind of reserves, so.
And as you point out, it's a minimum or a not less than, right? Yeah, and, you know, I would also point out that it is a board priority to maintain, I'm sorry, did I steal your thunder, Mr. President? You know, no less than the, you know, the kind of statewide average.
And I believe the state average is in the high 20s, if not 30.
29, 30%.
Yeah. And then it affects bond, you know, ratings as well. Some people like to have 100 days of reserve or 200 days, but just depending on the industry, but it is beneficial for us. So thank you for those efforts to make sure we're above average.
You had a question too, I think.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions or comments, but I can wait. But in this regard, I would say that I think we have a specific board policy in this regard. But in addition to that, I think something that was said earlier, that potentially we would qualify for state funding for a building, and we have to have a match. So potentially, some of those funds could come out of reserves if we don't have other funds built up in the capital projects fund. So I think that would be, that would come into play as well, I think.
Any other questions for Mr. Dominguez? Yes.
Okay, I kind of felt obligated to have to ask a couple questions of John, because I think some of my colleagues would think maybe I didn't take the opportunity to look at the report. But John, could you give me, I know you mentioned Governmental Accounting Standards Board, the sick leave or compensated absences, if you will, that required a prior period adjustment to account for that. Without going into all the minutia, was there some specific items that were added to the compensated absences?
Yeah, there were. Sick leave in particular was the primary driver of that. Historically, it had only been an analysis of vacation leave. If an employee separated employment for whatever reason, what was the vacation, you know, essentially payout liability? And 101 required to go above and beyond that and look at sick leave in addition to some other more minor sources and project what's actually used on an annual basis. And that was added to the liability under GASB 101.
Do you know if, was that already the case in the private sector accounting? And so
Correct.
GASB is catching up with that, is that?
Yep, exactly. Just like we had the pensions, that was driven by the private sector, you know, so some, you know, failings of GM, you know, back when, and that kind of drove that being added by GASB. So they do tend to kind of trail what's done in the private sector. That's exactly right.
Just one, and I think I know the answer to this, but on page 31 is your summary of the cash and investments, and which reflects about 215 million.
Yeah.
So I think if I look at the statement of net position, which I would refer to as a balance sheet, is that, if that's the cash and investments there reflects about 158 million. So am I correct in assuming that the difference would be in the other various funds to come up to the total of 215?
Yeah, there's a restricted investments line right below that. It's typically going to be those two amounts plus any fiduciary assets
so
or
that's-
investments
that
combined.
would reconcile back. Listen, I don't have any other questions. I'm always amazed at the extent of the numbers that flow through here and the work that it takes to get it put together. So I know Board Member Diaz already thanked the staff, and I would like to do that as well, because I know what it takes to get that done and get it done in a timely fashion. So thank you all for that.
Any additional questions for Mr. Dominguez? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the audit report for 2024, 2025.
I would make a motion to approve the audit report for fiscal year 24, 25.
I'll second it.
Motion by trustee Nunes, seconded by trustee Sherman. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Before you move on to the
Mr.
next
President,
item.
I had one other quick thing, if you don't mind, and that was for, I noticed the report on the measures. We're kind of carrying on with Measure J, and I know we had some things going on there. Is Measure J going to drop off here at some point in the next fiscal year? Would that be?
Yes, I don't think there's that much money left for Measure J, so hopefully that'll be dropped. You'll see it next year in the audit, of course, because we're still
Yeah.
spending the funds, but it will drop off.
Perfect.
Measure C will be, of course, our one that we're going to be focusing on. So with that, I just wanted to thank John and his firm. They do an outstanding job. They were at my prior district, they're at this district, very solid reputation. Again, kudos go out to Rainbow and her team and the entire district. I mean, there's two things that get CBOs fired. It's a bad audit and lack of fiscal stability, which we have both here. So just want to thank everybody. Again, thank you, John, and we'll see you again next year. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next item, board policy, second read. Dr. Calvin.
Question this audit report. Pay attention. Okay, we've got the second read on the three that we reviewed last month. 5035, withholding of student records. 5050, student success and support program, and 5400, student senate. There was a change on 5035. We discussed that last time. 5050, 5400, not so much, reviewed and reapproved, if you will. Happy to answer any questions for it, but we're seeing it for the second time.
Any questions for Dr. Calvin?
Yeah, I have just one comment on 5050 and one on 5400. I'm not sure why I didn't see it the first time. It is just a sort of an observation for your consideration, Dr. Calvin. Neither of these are earth-shaking. In 5050, where the second major paragraph, superintendent president shall establish procedures to ensure implementation of matriculation services that comply with the Title V regulations. I don't know whether that's a standalone, no other regulation apply, but it would seem to me in the reading that we would say something like Title V and other related. So if that works, fine. If Title V stands alone in terms of overseeing and informing this, then we can leave it as it is. That makes sense?
Yeah, you're just saying, should it be a little more open-ended to
Well, yeah,
include any
is there
other
anything else that
that governs our
Yeah.
student success and support programs? Okay, we'll consider that. We've got some student success or student services folks in the audience, so we can put our heads together and see if that makes sense to.
And then on 5400, it seemed like there was is almost sort of like an orphan. And on the fourth paragraph down, the last sentence, you know, as a policy statement, it, you know, goes through and it, you know, talks about the overall purpose. And then it says a simple majority of the elected voting members of the Student Senate Governing Board shall constitute a quorum. It's kind of like, okay, that's pretty granular. I'm not sure whether that belongs in a policy statement. If it does, that's fine. If there's some state requirement, you know, that's totally good. But if there isn't, it's almost sort of treading into water that we don't need to be in. That's all. It just, and again.
I mean, the sentence right before that kind of sets you up for something like that, right? I mean, a governing body will be elected from those student reps, will be elected and shall keep an account of its meetings, expenditures, authorizations, and policies established. A simple majority of that group shall constitute a quorum. I mean, you're right, it's fairly granular. We can go back and check and see if my guess is, I don't know that the league, who we get these from, I don't know that they're always as concerned with proper prose as opposed to just documenting what needs to be said. So we'll go back and look, and if we feel like it needs to come out, we can pull it out. Thank you for that, John.
So what do we recommend, that we approve them subject to those, or what?
I would say approve, subject to those minor modifications, if in fact it's appropriate.
Yeah, and if there's modifications made, just to bring back for information.
Got it.
purposes.
That's all.
I have questions on board policy 5035, withholding of student records. I think for me, I think the brevity of the paragraph, I think, is what allowed me to come up with a few questions. But first, I want to acknowledge, along with Board Member Len, that students should definitely be responsible for their choices and their commitments. But I think we should also be flexible and supportive to help them meet their obligations. And my first question is, should a limit be established on, like, for example, if, let's say, a student owes more than $500, does the policy then apply, or is there a certain amount? Or is it, you know,
So we're on 5035, correct?
Yes, correct.
Oh, okay. So it's written like this. We do have some discretion, and frankly, for the registration privileges, we generally, at least for the past several years, have put this in abeyance and allowed students to register within reason, and certainly $500 would be reasonable. And the main change here from years past was we can no longer withhold grades or transcripts as a result of money being owed. But I see where you're coming from. If someone owes us $25, are we going to withhold their ability to register? And I think I can say with confidence that generally does not happen.
And I think if anything, I think the conversation is, first and foremost, the law changed, so we can't hold on to transcripts if someone owed us even $5, so we release those. But we have gone to a zero, we don't withhold registration if they owe $1 or $500, and we've had conversations of, are we really hurting the student by doing that or helping them? You know, the initial thought is you're helping them because you're letting them register. Is it hurting them later when that catches up with the IRS and they now owe? So right now, there's not a hold based on fees. Yeah.
Should we, my next question was, should we include a hardship clause? But then again, like you mentioned, there's discretion, right, when it comes to registration. My next question is also, like, for example, let's say, somebody needs to provide a copy of their certificate or their transcripts in order to get a job, for example. Does the policy also apply there, or are we able to work with the student as well?
Well, again, by law, we can no longer withhold grades or transcripts.
Okay.
So somebody could owe us $1,000, $5,000, and we would still not have the ability to hold back grades and transcripts, which, that burns a little bit when somebody is that far in debt. Normally, it's for foreign students or students from out of state that have accumulated a big debt like that. But we don't have the ability to hold back grades or transcripts any longer. That's what precipitated this change.
Oh, that's all.
Okay. Thank you, Connie.
Any other questions on the second read of the board policies? If not, I'll entertain a motion to, I'll entertain a motion. I know there's a specific subject to review.
I move we approve board policy 5035, 5400, and 5050.
Subject to review if there's any additional modifications needed or subject.
Okay, yeah.
Motion by trustee Sherman and seconded by trustee Diaz. Before I entertain a vote, I'm gonna ask for an advisory vote from our student trustee, Ms. Martinez. How you would like to vote on approving the second reading of the board policies related to withholding of student records, student success, and student senate. Yep, thank you.
She said aye.
She said
Oh, aye, sorry, yeah.
And for our trustees, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item 8. Dr. Calvin.
These are both before you as a first read. 5200 student health services and 5210 communicable diseases, which should be noted that we caught the district and turned it into Sequoia's Community College District. After the 50th reminder, we've changed that. So happy to answer any questions you have on those two. These are virtually exactly what is recommended by the state on these two.
Trustee Lane.
Just a question on 5200. First line, student health services shall be provided in order to contribute, and on and on. It just kind of struck me as I read that almost becomes an entitlement, shall be provided, because we don't really qualify that in any way. I don't know whether or not we might want to take a look at that.
It's part of their fees. It's part of the student fee. They do pay for it.
Yeah.
Our student health center is paid for by student fees.
Okay.
If you're proposing adding something like that in there,
It just feels to me like that would be of value. That way it can't be, hijacked and have something read into that. If we qualify it, that, the fees are what pays it, so therefore we're providing it, as opposed to a more carte blanche that says we'll provide it.
are you proposing maybe just another sentence to end that paragraph that says, that makes mention of the fact that students do pay for these services?
Yeah, I mean, as a result of, payment for the
as a
for the
result of
services.
the health
it's-
fee or something
it's
like that?
Provided, yeah, something like that, maybe.
Services, do we see any challenge with kicking that around a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's two ways to look at it, but one, if like it's in, if you were to reference the code, it would delineate that.
Okay.
But two, if we wanted to spell it out in there, we could add a quick sentence that's, it's, paid by a student as part of their fees or.
If you feel like the ed code, because I didn't look that one up, if you feel like that provides clarity, I'm fine with that.
And I'll double check it to make sure it delineates it well,
Okay,
so that it would make sense if you looked it up, but yeah, I just took a note of that and I'll double.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions in regards to first read? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Pass to second reading for BP 5200 and 5210.
Second.
Motion by trustee Lane, seconded by trustee Sherman. I'd like to ask for an advisory vote of our student trustee. You're in favor of the first reading of our two board policies. Now for the trustee, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries to move board policies to the second read. Okay, well, thank you everyone for your time and support of everything you do for our students, and we look forward to seeing you next month. Thank you very much.
Connie, regarding African American